This is your English story for B1 learners. Read, listen, and enjoy. John had the jitters. It was only natural given the circumstances. Who wouldn't be nervous before a job interview this important? It was a big deal. It had the potential to change his life, and he didn't want to mess it up. He tried to stay positive. He kept reminding himself that he was prepared for the interview and that he was the best candidate for the job. He rehearsed his responses inside his head, trying hard to remember all the important things he wanted to mention. He hoped he wouldn't stumble over his words or forget important details. This was his chance to make a good impression and show his skills and experience. It was going to be fine, he told himself. All he had to do was say he was a team player and all those other things interviewers wanted to hear. If he did that, then he would get the job. No doubt about it. A voice called out his name from the interview room. It was time. He stood up, adjusting his tie, and walked towards the door. The nerves were still there, but so was his determination. It was time to show what he was made of. He took a deep breath, adjusted his tie, and reached for the doorknob. With a slight creak, the door swung open. The interviewer sat behind his desk, with his arms crossed. He looked so serious, John wondered if he'd ever smiled in his life. In fact, he reminded John of one of those grumpy cat pictures he'd seen on the internet. But maybe this guy wasn't all that bad. Maybe he was just having a bad day. Or maybe he was born with a permanently serious face. In any case, John knew he would have to do a lot to impress him.
"Take a seat," said the interviewer.
John sat down in front of the interviewer's desk.
"First of all, can I confirm your name and address?"
the interviewer said, looking down at the form in front of him. John cleared his throat. "Sure, my name is John Smith," he replied, his voice a little shaky.
"And your address, please?"
122 Main Street. Main Street. John cringed. What a start! 1 minute in, and this interview was already turning into a disaster. Still, no matter how bad this interview went, he was pretty sure that no one would seriously get hurt. At least not physically.
"And that's Main Street in Bristol, yes?"
asked the interviewer. John took a deep breath and tried to gather himself. "Yes, that's right. Main Street in Bristol."
"And your postcode?"
AS1 5YJ. The interviewer wrote down the information before looking up at John.
"Thank you for that, Mr. Smith. Now, Let's move on to the next question. What makes you a good candidate?
Oh yes, perfect. He'd rehearsed his answer to this question 100 times. Let's see here. I work well under pressure. I'm good at thinking outside the box. But then the interviewer interrupted him.
Give me an example of when you have thought outside the box, he said.
An example? John started to panic. He hadn't prepared for this question. He fidgeted in his chair, feeling the pressure growing with each passing second. Getting desperate, John said the first thing that came into his head. The interviewer sighed. He wasn't impressed. Well, he didn't seem impressed at the beginning, but it was as though John's response had somehow managed to fall short of even his lowest expectations. John's attempts to make a good impression only did the opposite. He made inappropriate jokes and even mispronounced the interviewer's name. Just when John thought things couldn't get any worse, he unintentionally made a rude comment about the interviewer's tie. Needless to say, John didn't get the job, but he certainly made quite an impression.